Well, hello YouTubers. You may well wonder what I'm doing stood outside my favourite shops. Well, day before yesterday I went into town for a coffee and the back brakes on the Black Pearl decided to let go. They've gone through to the metal, which I was sort of expecting, but I was hoping that I'll be able to pick the stuff up in the UK, bring it back. Anyway, I came down here to this place just behind me that seemed to stock pretty much everything, and he'd got a set of Z1000 rear brake pads in stock. Now I know that they're fairly generic, they all fit. You know, Japanese tend to use one parts bin for several manufacturers and several different types of bike. However, to be able to pick something up off the shelf like that here is pretty unusual, and I'm very impressed. I think it's probably even got the front ones. I might try and find out how much they're going to be and do those while I'm here. Anyway, that's one shop, and then of course there's my friend over there in the consumables department and tools. She's got pretty much everything as well. I managed to get some copper grease with a brush, so now I can do the job properly, which it hasn't been done before by the looks of it. I took it apart, it's very dry. So let's get back to Base Camp Rudge and I'll show you what I've been doing. We'll jump in the donkey and away we go. So just before we head back towards Base Camp Rudge, that's the police station just there on my right. So if you come back in the direction that we've just come from, you'll find the two places I've just mentioned on your right hand side, pretty much towards the end of this road. So yeah, head for the police station, follow that road down, and it's on your right hand side. Right, so we're back at the Base Camp Rudge, and as you can see, there's the culprit. It's just starting to touch. There wasn't a lot left of that pad, although I'll show you why in a minute that's missing. The other one, well, I mean, those of you who do cars are probably going, oh blimey, that's really thin, blah blah blah. But to be honest, if I can just open the packet, let's have a look. See, they're not motorbike pads aren't that thick to start with. But yeah, however, those are pretty badly worn. The other thing that I think might have been happening is that it wore unevenly because whoever did it before didn't use any copper grease when they assembled it. So let me show you how to do this job, if you're wondering. So there's the caliper. I've had to remove the rear silencer to get access to it. There's a block of wood in there to stop the piston from coming together. So the first thing you want to do really, if you're limited to tools, which I am at the moment because I'm working without my equipment, which is very frustrating. So your pads would normally be in there. So what I do is I get a tire iron or something like that between the back of the pad, not the disc side, but the back of the pad and this caliper, and just push it out that way, which will then push the retaining springs just for that, which will push your piston back a little bit. Anyway, then what you have to do is you undo those two Allen keys there, remove the caliper, and then in there's another little pin with an R-clip, which I'll show you if we can find it in amongst all my stuff here. Let's have a look. So there it is. There's the R-clip, and that's what it looks like on the end. So you take this R-clip out, which will be in there. So you pull the R-clip out, pull that pin out, and your pad will fall out. And this one's only retained by the bar that runs through the supporting backing plate, which I'll show you how that goes, because obviously some of you, I take it for granted that everybody knows what they're doing, but of course some of you have probably never done anything like this before. So that sits in there like that. It's got threads in it, which I'm going to clean up in a minute. You might want to put a little bit of blue thread lock on there, not red because you'll never get them off again, but blue will help. That bolts in there with this caliper attached. Now, so the slides there, I'll be putting grease in there. I put a little bit round the piston, and that slides on there. So every time you apply the back brake, this piston here will come out towards us, forcing the pads onto the disc. And as the pads wear, that slide there allows the caliper to move and take up that wear. This little shim here, which sits in the top of the caliper this way up, stops the brakes from chattering around and causing harmonics, which makes the brakes sound like they're squealing. So all I've got to do now is reassemble that, and we've got rear brakes again. As I said, you need to push the piston right back, because as the pads wear, the piston will start to creep further and further out. So I'd best get after it. Before I do, here's the pads that the guy supplied me. Aftermarket pads, obviously, but you know, get what you're given. And the copper grease, which was quite expensive, but I needed it. I wanted a tube of it really, but she hadn't got a tube, and this tin's got a brush with it, so that's good. And there's the Wilson toolkit, fairly extensive, much bigger than any snap-on kit I've ever used. Yeah, that's what I'm dealing with at the minute. Still, you know, it's done everything I needed to do at the moment. Unfortunately, we haven't got a wire brush to clean the threads up on that. Not quite sure what I'm going to do about that just yet, but we'll have a think about that in a minute. So yeah, I better get on with it, get the Black Pearl back on the road. Trying to do this step by step for you. As you can see, I've smeared some copper grease in there. I pumped the piston out a little bit, smeared it round, pushed the piston back in, and then wiped the excess off, because you don't want too much grease, because even though it's copper grease, it will get hot and melt and go everywhere. So but I'll put some there, and I've also put some, if I can just balance the camera, this little shim here, which sits in the bucket. I've greased that as well, because it was very dry, and that's a common cause of brake squealing, things like that jangling around. So now I'm going to clean these slides up, which go in here like that. So I'll clean those up with a bit of brake cleaner, which I also got from the young lady down at the shop I just showed you, because those should be nice. And see how that's sticking? That probably was why the brakes wore unevenly in the first place. So we'll clean this up, we'll put some copper grease in both of those. I'll put that rubber back on there that's fallen off, and then we can reassemble it. So here we go. There we go, that's the slider installed like that. Now that, believe it or not, it's greased up now, so it's a bit, I've got some vacuum I'm working against, but that slides up and down like that. So now you install the rear pad, which sits into that backing plate like that. You put the forward pad in place like that, put your pin in, making sure you've got the hole lined up like that. I'm just going to have to put that down a second while I get me, because I'm trying to do this while holding the camera as well. So got the camera pinched between my knees. There you go, there's the hole. So you put the R-clip in like that, and there we go, that's the brakes assembled. We'll put a little bit of copper grease behind there and behind there, just to stop the chattering. Wipe off the excess like that, and now this then fits. You have to separate the pads. I keep forgetting that some people may never have done this before. So separate the pads so you've got that gap there, and then slide that over the disc like that, and then you just bolt that up like that. And repeat on the front there like that. There's one. And there's two. Now another little trick I can teach you. I haven't got the tools that I'd normally have. I'd normally have an impact driver with an Allen bit on the end of it, and I'd just go like that, and then I'd tighten it up with some fairly long Allen keys. Well, Wilson Catering have no need for stuff like that. But he has got these, but of course, as you can see, they're a bit short. You're never going to get the leverage you want to make sure these are sufficiently tight, because they're too duggers, as we'd say in the trade. So what I've done is I've got the adjustable spanner here, good old standby. Put it over the end of the Allen key. That's nice and tight. And I've done the same with that one. So there's a little tip if you haven't got the right Allen key. So yeah, that's all done. All I've got to do now is clean the caliper up, put the exhaust back on. Oh, and of course, don't forget, you've now put the piston right back, so you've got no brakes. So you need to, I don't know whether you can see that moving there, need to pump the back brake up. There you go, it's pumped up now. I've got a full back brake. And then just check that it's free, which it is. I'd ideally like to jack the bike up and make sure it's free, but I haven't got that facility, so I'm going to have to try and do it on the road as best I can. But it's not binding, so that seems all right. I'll grease the chain up, put the exhaust back on, and we're out on the road. Now, while I was working on the bike, the mechanic in me and the detective came out. Spot the deliberate mistake here. Let me get a screwdriver and I'll show you what I mean. So, you see here the lock nut? That one there should be up against there. It's not doing anything. For those of you who don't know, I'm now going to adjust the chain. So there's marks on here. On most bikes you'll find there's lines on the back of the swing arm. So what you do is, to take the slack out of the chain, you'll turn this in that direction. So I'll be pulling the spanner up to take the bolt out, which takes the axle back. And I'll take it back until I've got the right amount of adjustment on the chain, and then check that the axle, centre of the axle, lines up with the lines on both sides. You count them out. I think there's 3 on this one. I haven't really counted it yet, but anyway, I'll make sure there's 3 on the other side, and then you lock it off, and then you wind this nut back up to there and tighten that down, and it stops this one from coming loose. Obviously the guy who adjusted that last didn't realise that, so I'm going to get on and adjust the chain now. One thing leads to another. Right, so it appears that the back wheel's out of line as well by quite a way, so this bike should handle quite a bit better. So now, as you can see, I've cleaned these off. I'm going to, it's powder coated, so I've cleaned them off because I couldn't see them properly. You may be able to see them better now, the little notches. So this one's almost on 3 and the other side's almost on 3, so that's the wheel in alignment. I've got about 1/4 inch of play in the chain, which means that when the swing arm comes up it'll be about right. It should be an R-clip in here. I actually prefer split pins because you can bend the ends out, they're not going to fall out. R-clips do come loose. So yeah, we're all good to go now. I'm going to have a quick look around the rest of the bike. Incidentally, you can see the lowering kit there, which apparently isn't legal in Greece. You're not allowed to lower your bike here, but yeah, somebody's made a little lowering kit up. I might at some point put it back to stock. Then again, I don't know. It's not causing me a problem, so I'm not that bothered about it, as long as I don't get done for it. So yeah, I'm going to put the exhaust back on and we'll see how we go from there. There we go. I've put the exhaust back on. Now there should be a strap that goes round here and bolts up into there to stop the exhaust from dangling about, because all that's holding that at the moment, and I've seen this done over my career as a bike builder in the custom bike scene, I've seen lads do this thousands of times. I have done it once or twice myself to get myself out of trouble, but I've always gone and put a bracket on at some point. All that's holding that now is the exhaust flange, which eventually will lead it to fail, and then you have to tackle getting these studs out, which can be a real pain in the backside. So yeah, the other thing is, I don't know whether you can see down there, there's only Jubilee clips pinching it all together. This pipe has got slots in it, around its diameter, so that when you clamp it up with the Jubilee clip, it pinches it to the other pipe, which works. I mean, it's on there. I certainly haven't had a problem with it trying to fall off, but you can see me just doing that. You can see it moves. So that's just another thing I'm not in love with. Something else that I had read about before I bought this: these bikes have a habit of vibrating. It's a ZX10 engine apparently. So I'll be checking all the engine mounts, because I dare say they haven't been checked for years, going by what's going on here. And of course there's the odd nut and bolt and Allen screw missing where they've vibrated and fell out. So that's that job done. I'm off out for a ride to cool down. I might even get a pint down in the town instead of a regulation coffee. I think I've earned one. My next job will be to replace the disc and pads on the front. I'm hoping that I can do that when I come back. So there you go, that's how we do that. I hope that's helped a few of you who want to have a go, but weren't quite sure how that came apart. I mean, I Google stuff, and I've been doing it for years. Pretty easy really. So I hope that's helped. Like, share, follow, subscribe, all the things that help me. And those of you on the island who know me, if you have any problems like this, give me a shout. I may well be able to help you, point you in the right direction, or even do the job for you. We'll see. So that's that. The Black Pearl, Nikki as she's known to me, is now back on the road. Thanks for watching. I think we're up to nearly 450 people now. You wonderful people who have subscribed. I'm just lost for words really. I didn't think anybody would be that interested. I know at least one or two of you. Jimmy Taverner, worryingly included in this lot. Watch me in bed. Yeah. Well, I suppose if it passes the lonely nights. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys later. No, there's nothing to see here. We'll start that again, shall we? And so there we are. The caliper is fitted. Who would run a bike like this? Yeah, me. Yeah, it's the cobbler and the shoes syndrome again, isn't it, really? That's what it is. So my next job will be, if you look down here at the... So I hope that video has helped some of you who don't know how to fit a... They're so patronising. So I hope that video helps, because I understand that some of you may never have changed a set of brake pads on the back of your Z1000 Gen 1 Kawasaki. I can't put that on there.